There are moments in life when a woman looks around and finds no one beside her, no close friend to call, no companion to share her tears, no familiar voice to comfort her in the silence of the night. And in those moments, the heart can become heavy. It begins to whisper painful questions. Why am I alone? Why does no one understand me? Why does it feel as though the world has moved on without me? But listen carefully, because loneliness is not always a punishment. Sometimes it is a preparation. Sometimes the quiet that surrounds you is not emptiness, but a sacred space where your soul is being rebuilt. The world may make you believe that your worth is tied to how many people stand around you, but true worth has never been measured by crowds. A woman without friends is not a woman without value. She is still strong, still worthy, still deeply precious. Perhaps this season of solitude has come so that she may discover herself beyond the noise of people, beyond the approval of others, beyond the expectations that once defined her. In the stillness, she begins to hear the voice of her own heart. In the pain, she finds strength she never knew she possessed. And sometimes the one above removes the voices around you so that you may finally hear the guidance meant only for you. So if you are that woman today, standing alone, carrying silent battles, do not mistake this chapter for the end of your story. This may be the very beginning of your transformation, the moment where pain turns into wisdom, tears turn into strength, and loneliness turns into a beautiful journey back to yourself. There are moments in life when loneliness settles into the heart so deeply that it begins to feel like a permanent part of one's existence. For a woman with no friends, this feeling can become especially heavy. She may wake up each day carrying the quiet ache of having no one to message, no one to laugh with, and no one to share the little details of life that seem so ordinary yet mean so much when shared with another soul. In such moments, it is easy for the mind to begin believing painful things. It starts to whisper that being alone means being unwanted, forgotten, or somehow less worthy than others. It suggests that if no one is close, then perhaps she does not matter. But this is where the heart must be reminded of a deeper truth. Loneliness is not abandonment. Being alone and being abandoned are not the same thing. Solitude is a condition of the moment, while abandonment is a belief that one has been left behind forever. Many people confuse the two, and that confusion turns silence into suffering. A woman may sit in a quiet room with no friends around her, yet still be surrounded by purpose, mercy, and unseen blessings. The absence of human companionship does not mean the absence of value, love, or care. Sometimes life enters seasons where people drift away, relationships fade, and the familiar warmth of connection seems distant. This can happen not because a person is unworthy, but because life itself moves in chapters, and every chapter carries its own lessons. There is a powerful difference between being physically alone and being truly forsaken. Human beings often measure their worth through visible relationships. They look at others who seem surrounded by friends and assume that popularity is proof of importance. Social media strengthens this illusion, constantly displaying groups, gatherings, smiles, and moments of togetherness. For the woman who has no close friends, these images can intensify the feeling that she has somehow been left out of life. Yet what is visible is not always what is real. Many who appear surrounded by people still carry loneliness within them. Many who seem connected are emotionally unseen. In contrast, a woman sitting alone may actually be in the midst of a sacred process of growth. Sometimes solitude is not rejection, but redirection. Life removes certain people so that the soul can find clarity. Noise can distract the heart from understanding itself. Constant conversation can drown out the deeper questions that need to be faced. In silence, truths begin to emerge. A woman starts to notice her thoughts, her fears, her strengths, and the wounds she has hidden for too long. This can be uncomfortable, but it is often the beginning of healing. What feels like emptiness may actually be space for reflection, for self-discovery, for rebuilding identity beyond the opinions of others. Loneliness often carries a test of faith and patience. The heart naturally longs for companionship because it was created to connect. But when that connection is absent, the soul is invited to grow inwardly. It learns resilience. It learns how to stand without leaning entirely on others. It learns how to find peace in its own company. This does not mean denying the pain of loneliness. The pain is real and it deserves compassion. There are nights when tears fall quietly and mornings when the weight of silence feels almost unbearable. Yet even in that pain, there is meaning. Hardship has a way of revealing strength that comfort never could. A woman with no friends may begin to feel invisible, but invisibility in the eyes of people does not mean invisibility in the grand design of life. Some of the most transformative seasons begin in isolation. Growth often happens underground before it becomes visible above the surface, just as roots grow in darkness before a tree rises into the light. Her current loneliness may be preparing her for wisdom, maturity, and emotional strength that will later become the foundation of her future relationships and purpose. It is also important to understand that the absence of friends in one season does not define the rest of life. Life is fluid. People enter and leave. Hearts connect in unexpected ways. A woman may feel deeply alone today and yet find meaningful companionship tomorrow, next month, or in a completely new chapter she cannot yet imagine. The present silence should not be mistaken for a permanent destiny. Sometimes what feels like a closed door is merely a pause before something better opens. Most importantly, loneliness should never be interpreted as a sign that one is unloved by the Creator or forgotten by destiny. There are moments when people are removed from our lives so that we learn to rely less on temporary attachments and more on the deeper strength within. The silence around her may actually be an invitation to rediscover her own voice, her own worth, and the quiet assurance that even when no human being seems near, she is still held by mercy, still seen by the one who knows every unspoken tear, every silent prayer, every ache carried behind a brave face. Every moment she questioned her worth, every night she waited for a message that never came, every morning she rose despite the heaviness in her chest, every hidden wound that no one else ever noticed, every fragile hope she still protects within her heart, every unanswered longing that continues to live softly within her soul as she keeps walking through the silence of this chapter and into whatever awaits beyond it. A woman's worth has never been determined by the number of people who surround her. Yet in a world that constantly measures value through attention, popularity, and social circles, it becomes easy for a woman with no friends to begin doubting her own importance. She may look at others who seem constantly loved, invited, and admired, and quietly ask herself whether something is missing within her. The heart can become burdened with questions that cut deeply. Am I not good enough? Am I difficult to love? Why does no one stay? These thoughts, if left unchecked, can slowly erode self-esteem and make loneliness feel like proof of unworthiness. But the truth is far greater and far more healing. Inner worth and dignity are not granted by people, nor can they be taken away by their absence. Human dignity is something far deeper than social acceptance. It does not rise when others praise us, and it does not fall when others ignore us. A woman remains valuable even in silence, even in solitude, even in seasons where no one seems to notice her. Her worth is not a reward for being socially connected. It is part of her very existence. She carries value in the way she thinks, feels, endures, and continues despite the battles no one sees. The world often glorifies those who are constantly surrounded by people, but being known by many is not the same as being worthy. A woman who walks alone may possess more depth, grace, and strength than those who appear celebrated by crowds. The danger lies in allowing external validation to define internal identity. When a woman begins to measure herself through the presence or absence of friendships, she hands others the power to determine how she sees herself. If someone leaves, she feels diminished. If she is excluded, she feels less important. If she is not called, remembered, or invited, she may start believing she has no significance. But true dignity cannot be built on something so unstable. People's attention changes. Relationships evolve. Human affection can be temporary. If self-worth is tied entirely to these things, then peace becomes fragile. The heart will always remain vulnerable to disappointment. Instead, dignity must come from within. It comes from recognizing one's own humanity, values, and strength. A woman must learn to see herself as worthy, not because someone else confirms it, but because worth is inherent. She has survived moments that could have broken her. She has carried pain quietly while still showing kindness to others. She has endured loneliness, disappointment, and perhaps even rejection, yet she continues moving forward. There is dignity in resilience. There is honor in patience. There is beauty in a heart that remains soft despite the wounds it has known. Sometimes the absence of friends makes a woman confront herself more honestly. Without the distractions of constant company, she begins to face the relationship she has with her own soul. This can be uncomfortable because many people spend their lives seeking worth from outside themselves. But solitude offers an invitation to discover that she is enough even when no one is applauding her. Her presence alone has meaning. Her thoughts matter. Her emotions matter. Her journey matters. She does not need a crowd to prove that her life carries value. Society often confuses visibility with worth. Those who are seen the most are assumed to matter the most. Yet many of the most powerful qualities in a human being are invisible. Integrity is invisible. Patience is invisible. Faith is invisible. Compassion is invisible. These qualities do not always attract crowds, but they are among the most valuable treasures a person can possess. A woman may not have many friends, yet she may carry extraordinary wisdom, empathy, and emotional strength. These qualities do not disappear simply because others fail to recognize them. There is also a quiet dignity in protecting one's peace. Not every absence of friendship is a loss. Sometimes distance from certain people is a blessing. There are relationships that drain the soul, distort self-worth, and create more pain than comfort. In such cases, being alone can actually preserve dignity. It is far better to walk alone with self-respect than to remain in company that diminishes one's spirit. A woman must never believe that any companionship is better than none. True friendship uplifts, respects, and nurtures. If such friendship is absent, her dignity remains intact, untouched by the emptiness around her. Inner worth is also connected to purpose. A woman's life is larger than her social circumstances. She was not created merely to be liked by others. She was created to grow, to learn, to contribute, to love, and to fulfill a purpose unique to her existence. Sometimes loneliness creates the very conditions in which purpose becomes clear. Without the noise of constant relationships, she may begin to understand her own passions, strengths, and direction in life. What once felt like emptiness may become a sacred space for discovering who she truly is. Most importantly, dignity means refusing to speak to oneself with cruelty. The mind can become a harsh place during loneliness, constantly repeating ideas of inadequacy and rejection. But a woman must guard her inner voice. She must not allow herself to believe that being friendless makes her less valuable. Her dignity is not negotiable. It is not dependent on invitations, messages, or social approval. She is worthy in her quiet moments, worthy in her tears, worthy in her struggle, worthy in the way she continues to rise after every difficult day, worthy in the unseen strength she carries through sleepless nights, worthy in the softness of her heart that still hopes for connection, worthy in the dreams she keeps alive despite the silence around her, worthy in the silent courage with which she faces another day, and worthy simply because her existence itself carries honor, meaning, and a beauty that no absence of friendship can ever take away as she continues walking through this season of solitude with grace and strength still alive within her heart. There are seasons in life when solitude feels less like a choice and more like something written for the soul. For a woman with no friends, these moments can feel painfully heavy. The silence can seem endless, and the absence of companionship can make the heart question why life has become so still. Yet sometimes what appears to be loneliness is actually divine wisdom unfolding in ways that are not immediately visible. Solitude is often misunderstood as emptiness, when in truth it can become one of the most sacred spaces for growth, reflection, and transformation. Human beings naturally seek connection. We long to be heard, understood, and accompanied through life's joys and sorrows. So when those connections are absent, the first feeling is often pain. A woman may wonder why she has been placed in such isolation while others seem surrounded by love and friendship. She may compare her quiet life to the lives of others and assume that something has gone wrong. But not every season of aloneness is a sign of loss. Sometimes it is a sign that the soul is being prepared for something greater than it can yet understand. There is wisdom in silence. When life becomes crowded with people, opinions, and constant noise, it is easy to lose touch with oneself. Many people spend years living according to the expectations of others, shaping their identity around acceptance and approval. In the absence of friends, a woman is often brought face to face with her true self. She begins to hear thoughts that were once buried beneath distraction, She begins to notice wounds she ignored, fears she suppressed, and dreams she set aside. This process can be painful, but it is also deeply healing. Solitude has a way of revealing truths that noise hides. Sometimes certain people are removed from our lives, not as a punishment, but as protection. Not every relationship is meant to remain. Some friendships, even when they seem comforting, can distract the heart, weaken the spirit, or lead one away from peace. When those people leave, the first reaction may be grief, but later it becomes clear that their absence created room for growth. What felt like emptiness was actually space being made for healing, maturity, and clarity. Divine wisdom often works in ways that are only understood in hindsight. For a woman who feels alone, solitude can become the place where strength is born. In the presence of constant support, we may never fully discover what we are capable of enduring. But in isolation, resilience begins to grow. She learns how to comfort herself, how to rise without being lifted by others, and how to keep walking even when no one is beside her. This inner strength is not easily gained in comfortable circumstances. It is often the product of silent battles, tears no one witnessed, and nights spent searching for meaning. Yet through it all, something powerful is being formed within her, a stronger, wiser version of herself. Solitude also allows the heart to deepen its connection with the Creator. When human voices become distant, the soul often becomes more aware of the presence that never leaves. In moments of aloneness, prayer becomes more sincere, reflection becomes more honest, and trust becomes more profound. The woman who once relied heavily on people may begin to realize that there is a deeper source of comfort and guidance available to her. The silence around her may actually be an invitation to listen more closely to the whispers of faith, patience, and inner peace. There is also wisdom in the way solitude teaches self-worth. When no one is present to constantly validate her, she is invited to discover value within herself. She begins to ask who she is beyond the roles people assign to her. She starts to recognize her strengths, her gifts, and her ability to exist fully without external approval. This realization is transformative. A woman who learns to stand firmly in her own worth during solitude becomes far less dependent on the opinions of others. Sometimes the Creator isolates a person so they may be redirected toward purpose. The absence of friends can remove distractions and create time for self-discovery. A woman may find herself exploring talents she had long neglected, pursuing knowledge, strengthening her character, or building a future she never previously imagined. What once felt like a painful void can become fertile ground for purpose. In stillness, seeds are planted. In quiet moments, vision becomes clearer. In isolation, the heart often rediscovers what truly matters. It is important to remember that growth rarely feels comfortable while it is happening. A seed buried in the soil might mistake darkness for abandonment, yet it is precisely in that darkness that it begins to grow roots. In the same way, a woman in solitude may believe she has been left behind, while in reality she is being strengthened from within. The lessons learned in these moments, patience, self-awareness, faith, and resilience, often become the foundation for future blessings and meaningful relationships. Divine wisdom in solitude is not always about removing pain. Sometimes it is about transforming pain into understanding. The tears she sheds may soften her heart. The silence she fears may teach her to listen inwardly. The loneliness she resists may reveal strength she never knew she had. Every quiet moment may be shaping her into someone more grounded, more compassionate, and more deeply connected to herself and her faith. So, if a woman finds herself without friends, she should not rush to conclude that she has been forgotten. This chapter may carry a wisdom that only time will reveal. What feels like isolation today may become the very season she later looks back on as the beginning of her deepest growth, the chapter where she found herself, strengthened her spirit, and discovered that sometimes the most profound transformations happen not in the company of many, but in the sacred stillness of being alone with her thoughts, her prayers, her tears, and the quiet guidance that continues to shape her heart in ways she may only understand much later. There are moments in life when a woman feels as though she is carrying the weight of the world alone. No friend to call, no shoulder to lean on, no voice nearby to remind her that everything will be okay. In such moments, the silence can feel overwhelming and the loneliness can begin to test the very core of her spirit. Yet it is often in these exact moments that strength through patience and faith begins to take root. Hardship has a way of revealing what comfort often conceals. When life becomes difficult, The heart is invited to grow in ways it never imagined. Patience is not simply waiting for pain to pass. It is the quiet courage to endure the present moment without allowing it to destroy hope. For a woman with no friends, patience becomes a deeply personal journey. Every day may bring the same silence, the same unanswered longing for connection, the same ache of feeling unseen. Yet patience teaches her not to measure life only by what she lacks in the moment. It teaches her to trust that this season is temporary even when it feels endless. True patience is active, not passive. It does not mean suppressing pain or pretending everything is fine. Rather, it means carrying pain with dignity while continuing to move forward. A woman may cry in private, feel the weight of loneliness in her chest, and still wake up the next morning with the strength to face another day. That itself is patience. It is the ability to remain steady even when the heart is restless. It is the refusal to let hardship turn into bitterness. Faith gives patience its strength. Without faith, waiting can feel empty. But with faith, waiting becomes meaningful. Faith reminds her that every hardship carries wisdom, even when it is hidden. It reminds her that life unfolds in ways beyond immediate understanding. What she sees as delay may actually be preparation. What feels like loss may be protection. What appears to be silence may be a chapter of growth. For a woman walking through loneliness, faith becomes a light in the darkness. It allows her to believe that she is not forgotten, even when people seem distant. It allows her to trust that every tear has meaning, every struggle is seen, and every moment of endurance is shaping something beautiful within her. Faith does not always remove pain, but it changes the way pain is carried. It transforms suffering into strength and turns waiting into worship. Hardship has a unique way of shaping character. Easy days rarely reveal the depth of a person's resilience. It is the difficult nights, the lonely mornings, and the silent battles that bring hidden strength to the surface. A woman may not realize how strong she truly is until life leaves her with no choice but to stand on her own. In the absence of support, she learns how to support herself. In the absence of reassurance, she learns how to speak hope into her own heart. This process can be painful, but it is also transformative. Hardship strips away illusions. It reveals what truly matters. It teaches a woman that her strength does not come from how many people stand beside her, but from the courage within her own soul. Every challenge she survives becomes evidence of her resilience. Every lonely day she endures becomes proof that she is stronger than she once believed. Faith also teaches perspective. What feels unbearable today may later be understood as one of the most meaningful chapters of her life. Many people only recognize the wisdom of hardship after they have passed through it. Looking back, they realize that the pain shaped them, refined them, and prepared them for blessings they could not have handled before. The same may be true for her. This loneliness, difficult as it is, may be preparing her heart for deeper relationships, greater emotional maturity, and a stronger connection with herself. Patience and faith together protect the heart from despair. Loneliness often brings thoughts of self-doubt and hopelessness. The mind begins to whisper that things will never change, that life will always remain this way. But faith interrupts those thoughts. It reminds her that no season lasts forever. Just as night eventually gives way to morning, hardship eventually gives way to ease. Patience allows her to hold on until that moment arrives. There is also immense strength in remaining kind despite pain. A woman who has experienced loneliness may still choose compassion, gentleness, and grace. This is one of the highest forms of resilience. Pain often tempts people to close their hearts, but patience and faith help preserve softness. They allow her to remain hopeful without becoming hardened by disappointment. Every trial she faces is shaping her into someone deeper and wiser. The woman who emerges from hardship with patience and faith intact is not the same woman who entered it. She carries a quiet strength that cannot be easily shaken. She understands pain, yet she also understands perseverance. She has learned how to survive storms without losing herself. So when loneliness feels heavy, she must remember that this hardship is not meaningless. It is building something within her: strength, wisdom, endurance, and trust. Every moment she remains patient, every prayer she whispers in silence, every day she chooses faith over despair is shaping her character in powerful ways. The loneliness may test her, but it is also refining her, teaching her how to stand firm in moments of weakness, how to keep believing when nothing around her seems to change, how to continue walking through silence with dignity, and how to trust that beyond this difficult season there is a future she cannot yet see, but one that is being prepared through every moment of patience and every act of faith she continues to hold in her heart.